Emily stepped out of the black cab onto the bustling London sidewalk, pausing a moment to smooth her modest maternity dress. The morning air was crisp, carrying the distant chime of Big Ben and the rumble of traffic. In her hand, she clutched a small lunch basket she had prepared, a thoughtful surprise for her husband on his first week at his new job. Welcome to Afro Tales TV, your home for rich, exciting, and inspiring stories from around the world. Today's story will touch your heart and keep you hooked till the very end. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our amazing stories. She looked up at the elegant facade of Hartley & Brown Fashion House, one of the city's most prestigious fashion companies. The grand stone building loomed 5 stories high, with tall glass doors and the company's name etched in gold lettering. Emily drew a steadying breath and made her way to the entrance. Inside the lobby, gleaming marble floors and modern art pieces spoke of luxury and exclusivity. A uniformed security guard stood near the reception desk, his posture stiff and chin raised. As Emily approached the entrance, the guard's eyes swept over her, taking in her simple blue dress, comfortable flats, and the gentle swell of her pregnant belly. A flicker of disdain crossed his face. Emily offered a polite smile. "Good morning," she said softly as she reached for the door. The guard stepped in front of her, blocking the way. "Hold on, miss," he snapped, his tone curt. "Where do you think you're going?" Startled by his sharpness, Emily blinked. "Oh, I'm just here to see my husband. He works here," she explained, still attempting a friendly tone. She assumed it was a simple misunderstanding that would be cleared up with a few words. The guard's brow arched skeptically. He looked her up and down once more, this time openly sneering at her attire. "Your husband works here? Is that so?" he said, voice dripping with doubt. He shifted his weight, planting himself like a barrier before the doors. "Do you have an appointment or a visitor's pass?" Emily's cheeks warmed with embarrassment. No, I don't have a pass, but my husband said I could drop by around lunchtime. If you call upstairs, I'm sure someone can help." He cut her off with a dismissive laugh. "Listen, we don't just let anyone wander in off the street. This is Hartley & Brown, not some high street shop you can stroll into," the guard said. He jutted his chin toward her basket. "What's that? Some homemade lunch? Do you think this is a picnic ground?" Emily's grip tightened on the handle of the basket, knuckles turning white. She felt a flush of humiliation creeping up her neck. A couple of well-dressed employees passed by on the sidewalk, casting curious glances at the scene. "It's just lunch for my husband. I promise I'm not here to cause trouble," she said, voice wavering slightly. "If you could just call him, his name is James Weston." The guard's eyes narrowed. The name was vaguely familiar. There had been an internal memo about a new CEO named James Weston starting this week, but this plainly dressed, pregnant young woman did not fit the image he had of a CEO's wife. He dismissed the thought as coincidence. There were plenty of employees named James in a big company, he figured. And a CEO's wife would surely arrive in a chauffeured car, draped in designer labels, not looking like this. He crossed his arms over his chest. "Nice try," he said coldly. "There's no James Weston listed for regular visits today. And even if there were, you can't just waltz in here unannounced." His voice grew louder, drawing attention from the receptionist behind the desk and a few others in the lobby. "People like you need to understand that this is a place of business, not a drop-in center." Emily felt the sting of his words. "People like you." She wasn't sure what he meant, but it clearly wasn't kind. Her heart pounded with a mix of anxiety and indignation. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break any rules," she said quietly. "It's just, James, my husband, told me I could meet him for lunch. If you could just call up to his office and tell him Emily is here." The guard rolled his eyes dramatically. "And who is your husband, really? A janitor? A mailroom clerk? he taunted. You expect me to believe an important man in this company has you for a wife? He gave a pointed look at her belly and her simple dress, chuckling cruelly. Dressed like that, carrying a basket like some country girl? You're clearly lost or making things up. Perhaps you're here hoping to snag a rich man? It wouldn't be the first time someone tried to loiter around here fishing for a wealthy executive. Emily's eyes widened in hurt and disbelief. She opened her mouth to protest, but her words caught in her throat. A knot of shame and anger formed in her chest. She could feel heat behind her eyes, tears threatening to spill. Don't cry, she told herself. Don't give him the satisfaction. She had never been spoken to like this in her life. I'm telling the truth, she managed, her voice trembling despite her effort to steady it. Please, just call my husband. He asked me to come. I'm not lying. The guard took a step forward, and Emily instinctively stepped back. He was taller than her, and his looming stance made her feel small and vulnerable. Enough, he barked, his patience apparently at an end. I've seen plenty of liars and chancers, and you fit the profile. If you don't leave on your own, I'll be happy to escort you out. By now, the receptionist at the desk looked uneasy, watching the confrontation with concern. A few employees passing through the lobby slowed their steps, whispering among themselves as they watched the security guard berate a pregnant woman at the door. Emily felt all those eyes on her and wished the floor would just swallow her up. Her hands trembled, and she placed one protective palm over her belly, trying to calm the anxious fluttering of the baby within. She willed herself to stay composed. I'm sorry, she stammered, not even sure what she was apologizing for except wanting the situation to stop escalating. Maybe I should call him on my phone and let him know I'm here. The guard snorted. You do that, he said mockingly. Call your husband. He made air quotes with his fingers. And tell him that next time you need to follow proper protocol. Honestly, I doubt anyone will pick up if you try that trick. Maybe because he doesn't exist? Emily's face burned. She fumbled in her purse for her mobile phone. Her fingers were shaking as she tried to unlock it. In her flustered state, she fumbled the passcode twice. The guard stood there smirking, clearly thinking her distress was proof of deceit. Finally, on the third try, the phone unlocked. She found James's number and pressed it. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. He must be in a meeting or still on his way. Her heart sank. He's not answering. He must be busy, she murmured, her voice barely audible over the lump in her throat. The guard threw up his hands in a grand, sarcastic shrug. Surprise, surprise. No one to save your story. Now, I think it's time for you to leave. We have standards here, and we can't have just anyone wandering about. Especially not someone who might cause a scene. And frankly, you're causing one right now. At that, a tear escaped down Emily's cheek, though she quickly brushed it away. She glanced around helplessly. This was turning into a nightmare. She considered for a moment revealing the truth. Telling this awful man that not only did her husband exist, he was starting today as the new CEO. Surely that would wipe the arrogant grin off the guard's face. But something kept her from saying it. Part pride, part shock. She shouldn't have to pull rank to be treated decently, and she didn't want to start James's first week with her causing a scene on his behalf. I'll wait outside and try calling him again in a few minutes, she said quietly, defeat in her voice. She turned slowly, humiliated, wanting nothing more than to escape the guard's sneering gaze. But just as Emily took a step toward the curb, a sleek silver company car pulled up to the front. The rear passenger door opened, and out stepped a tall man in a tailored navy suit. James Weston had arrived for the day, later than usual due to a morning meeting across town, his polished shoes hitting the pavement as he thanked the driver. He was about to head inside when he noticed a familiar figure by the entrance. "Emily?" James called, surprised. His eyes took in the scene, his wife standing just outside the door, looking distressed, eyes red-rimmed as if holding back tears, and the security guard he'd only met briefly on Monday, now looming at the doorway with a scowl. James's heart lurched. Why was Emily outside? They had talked about her visiting, but he expected she would be waiting comfortably in the lobby. At the sound of her husband's voice, Emily spun around. Relief and emotion washed over her face. "James?" she cried, her voice breaking as she rushed to him. James closed the distance in 2 long strides and enveloped her in a protective embrace, lunch basket and all. "What's going on, darling? Are you all right?" he asked gently, though his eyes were already flicking up to the guard with a darkening expression. Before Emily could answer, the security guard stepped forward, looking between the couple in confusion. He hadn't connected the dots until this moment. "Sir, this woman was trying to get into the building without authorization," he began defensively, addressing James. "I was just about to have her removed." James held up a hand, silencing him. His jaw tightened as he realized exactly what must have happened. Emily buried her face in his chest for a moment, regaining her composure. When she looked up, James saw the hurt in her eyes and felt a surge of anger churn in his stomach. "Did he hurt you? What did he say?" James asked his wife softly, brushing a strand of her hair back. Emily just shook her head, not wanting to stir more trouble. But her silence spoke volumes. James turned his full attention to the guard, wrapping one protective arm around Emily's shoulders. "I'd like to hear your explanation," he said to the guard, voice icy calm in a way that sent a chill through the morning air. "From the beginning, what exactly happened here?" The guard faltered. He had sensed something was off the moment this well-dressed gentleman appeared, and Emily ran to him. And when she cried out, "James!" the realization hit that this man was the one she'd been trying to see. Could it be the same James Weston he knew as the incoming CEO? The guard's face paled slightly. "Sir, the guard stammered, suddenly far less sure of himself. The arrogance drained from his posture. She claimed she was here to see her husband, but she had no appointment, no pass. "I was just following protocol, you see," he managed to say, speaking quickly. His earlier bravado was gone. "Protocol?" James repeated, each syllable measured. He recognized the guard now, Nigel, the head of lobby security, someone he'd briefly met while touring the building on Monday. Nigel had seemed polite enough then, but clearly something else lurked beneath that surface. James's eyes flickered to the gold name badge on the man's chest. Nigel Haskins. "And does your protocol include insulting and humiliating visitors? A pregnant woman, no less?" Nigel swallowed hard. "Sir, I didn't insult her. I merely told her the rules. She was insistent on getting in without authorization." Emily winced at the half-truth of his words. Her lips parted as if she might contradict him, but James spoke first. "I heard enough of it myself," James said sharply. He had arrived in time to catch the guard's raised voice and the tail end of his tirade. "I saw my wife near tears. I certainly heard you telling her she didn't belong here. Do you have any idea who this is?" Nigel's eyes darted from James to Emily and back. His face was now flushed, realizing that, indeed, this is the new CEO standing in front of him, and the woman he had just mistreated is the CEO's wife. He stuttered, I didn't know, sir. I was only trying to protect the company." James's tone remained cold and authoritative. "Protect it from whom? From my wife? From a kind woman carrying lunch for her husband?" His voice hardened, each word laced with controlled anger. "My wife should have been welcomed warmly or at the very least treated with basic respect. Instead, you chose to bully and degrade her." Nigel shook his head frantically. "It was a misunderstanding. I thought she might be trespassing or some kind of threat." He tried to justify lamely. James's eyes flashed. "A threat?" What exactly did you think this pregnant woman was going to do? Steal fashion secrets with a basket of sandwiches? A few onlookers in the lobby who had been pretending not to listen now outright stared, some covering their mouths in disbelief at the unfolding drama. Emily tugged gently at James's sleeve. "James, maybe we should just go upstairs. I don't want to make this into a bigger scene," she whispered, her face still flushed with embarrassment. She had hoped the ordeal would end quickly, and now a part of her felt guilty that her surprise visit had spiraled into this. But James was not willing to let it slide. He had always been a fair and calm person, but seeing his wife treated so poorly ignited something fiercely protective in him. He addressed Nigel once more, voice ringing through the lobby. "I won't tolerate this behavior, toward my wife or any visitor to this company. Hartley and Brown has a reputation for excellence, and that extends to how we treat people." Nigel's shoulders slumped. He knew what was coming and opened his mouth in one last effort to save himself. "Sir, please, I've worked here for 12 years. I didn't realize who she was. If I had known—" "Ah," James interjected, holding up a finger. "If you had known she was the CEO's wife, you would have treated her better? Is that what you mean?" Nigel hesitated, then nodded slightly, thinking agreement might appease James. "Yes, of course I would have." "That's exactly the problem," James cut in, anger now evident beneath his composed exterior. "You should treat everyone with respect, whether you know them or not, whether they're a CEO's wife or a stranger off the street. The fact that you only care now because you realize who she is, that tells me everything I need to know about you." Nigel opened and closed his mouth, at a loss for words. A heavy silence fell in the lobby. Even the receptionist looked down, pretending to shuffle papers as tension hung thick in the air. James drew a breath, then spoke firmly. "Nigel Haskins, effective immediately. You are dismissed from your position." Gasps rippled among the small audience of staff nearby. Nigel's face turned ashen. Fired?" Nigel croaked, as if he couldn't believe what he'd heard. "Sir, please, I need this job. You should have thought of that before abusing your power and mistreating someone," James replied, unwavering. He gently released Emily from his arm and stepped forward, authority radiating from his stance. "Hand in your security badge at HR on your way out. I will be informing them of the reasons for your termination. I expect you to leave the premises immediately after." Nigel looked around wildly, as if hoping someone would come to his defense, but no one moved. He had never felt so small. This morning he had been so sure of himself, confident in his authority. Now it all crumbled around him. He turned pleading eyes to Emily. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I truly didn't know. Please, maybe if you speak up for me." Emily met his gaze, tears still glistening on her lashes. In that moment, she felt a whirl of emotions, hurt from the way he had treated her, and a hint of pity now seeing him reduced to begging. She took a steady breath. "I wouldn't want anyone else to be treated the way you treated me," she said softly. "I'm sorry too, but what you did was wrong." Her voice was gentle but firm, leaving no doubt that she supported her husband's decision. Nigel's shoulders sagged completely. He swallowed hard and nodded, accepting defeat. Wordlessly, he unclipped the shiny name badge from his lapel and removed the electronic security pass from around his neck. With trembling hands, he set them on the reception desk. The receptionist avoided his eyes, her lips pressed together in disapproval of his earlier behavior. For a moment, Nigel hovered as if about to say something more, but no words came. Finally, under the silent, watchful eyes of the new CEO and his wife, the former security guard turned and walked out of the building into the cool London air, his head hanging low. As he passed by James and Emily, he mumbled one last apology, but neither replied. The glass doors closed behind him with a heavy thud. In the quiet that followed, James immediately turned to Emily, concern softening his face. "Are you all right, love?" he asked, cupping her face in his hands gently. The anger that had gripped him moments before was replaced by worry for her well-being. "I'm so sorry you went through that. If I'd known you were arriving now, I would have been here to meet you." Emily managed a small smile through her residual tears. "I'm okay now," she said, leaning into his touch. "I didn't expect any of that. I just wanted to surprise you with lunch." She glanced down at the slightly squashed wicker basket still hooked on her arm and let out a shaky laugh. "I suppose it was more of a surprise than I intended." James's eyes softened further, and he pulled her into a tender hug. "It's a wonderful surprise," he murmured. "Thank you for bringing it. But I'm sorry you had to deal with that guard's behavior. I can't stand the thought of anyone treating you so badly." A few onlookers were still nearby, and James gave them a polite nod, silently signaling that everything was fine now. The small crowd began to disperse, whispering amongst themselves about the dramatic event they had just witnessed. The receptionist caught James's eye and gave a supportive smile before returning to her duties, tapping away at her computer. Emily felt heat in her cheeks again, but this time from the attention and the relief that it was over. "I hated causing a scene, James," she admitted softly. "For a moment I thought I should tell him who I was, but I didn't want to pull the wife of the boss card. It just felt wrong." James kissed her forehead gently. "You shouldn't have to tell anyone who you are to be treated decently. You handled yourself with grace, far more than that man deserved." She closed her eyes, letting the safety of his arms chase away the lingering stress. "I was so embarrassed. I thought maybe I really shouldn't be here." "Nonsense," James said, guiding her toward a plush lobby sofa. He gestured toward a junior assistant who had been hovering nearby, drawn by the commotion. "Could you please bring my wife a glass of water?" James asked kindly. The young man nodded and hurried off. James helped Emily ease down onto the sofa and sat beside her, one arm protectively around her shoulders. "This is exactly where you belong, by my side. I'm just sorry my new position caused a mix-up. I wanted to surprise you tonight with the news." He chuckled softly. "I didn't expect you to find out by coming here and encountering that." She shook her head with a soft laugh. "Oh, James, you and your surprises. Well, I certainly was surprised." She placed a hand on her belly, feeling a gentle kick as her own nerves settled. "Our little one must be on the edge of his seat with all this excitement too." He nodded, looking a touch sheepish. "I had this silly romantic idea. I was going to take you to that restaurant you love and tell you I've been made CEO. I only found out a week ago and it happened so fast. Hartley and Brown wanted to announce it immediately. I thought it'd be a nice surprise. I didn't realize you'd be coming by the office so soon." Emily gave him a tender smile. "Oh, I think I've had enough surprises for one day. But I'm so proud of you, James. CEO of Hartley and Brown. That's amazing." She leaned into him and he held her close. The assistant returned with a glass of water, which Emily accepted gratefully. After a few sips, she let out a content breath. "Thank you," she said to the young man, who nodded and retreated with a respectful smile. James placed his hand over Emily's on her belly, feeling a second mild kick. His face glowed with love and pride. "I promise, both of you, no more excitement of the bad kind." He looked into Emily's eyes sincerely. "From now on, anyone who walks through those doors will be treated with respect and courtesy, whether it's the CEO's wife or any visitor at all. I'll see to it personally." Emily leaned her head against his shoulder. "I know you will," she said softly. The emotional storm of moments ago had passed, leaving her feeling safe and appreciated. Outside, the late morning sun broke through the clouds, sending pale rays through the glass lobby doors. London's bustle continued on the street, but inside the fashion house, calm had been restored. James stood and offered his hand to Emily. "Come on, let's go upstairs. I'll show you my new office. We can have that lunch together in peace." She accepted his hand and rose to her feet, feeling lighter, knowing he was by her side. "That sounds perfect." As they walked towards the private elevator, arm in arm, Emily glanced once more at the entrance where the confrontation had occurred. It already felt like a bad dream fading away. She had come to surprise her husband, and though the visit hadn't gone as planned, it revealed something important, that James would always stand up for her, and that kindness and respect should never be optional, no matter who you are. James pressed the elevator button, then looked at his wife with a reassuring smile. In that smile, Emily found all the comfort she needed. The doors opened with a soft chime, and together they stepped in, leaving the morning's ordeal behind. In the end, the security guard's own pride had been his downfall, and he was left outside with a lot to reflect on. Inside the Hartley and Brown fashion house, however, a different lesson took root, one of compassion, humility, and the simple truth that you should never judge a person by their appearance. As the elevator doors slid shut, James gently squeezed Emily's hand. "I love you," he whispered. She smiled up at him, eyes bright. "I love you too." It was a hard-earned happy moment after a difficult start to the day, but it made the ending all the more satisfying. Husband and wife stood together, ready to face whatever came next, knowing they had each other's backs, now and always. Moral lesson: never judge people by their appearance or status. Respect and kindness should be shown to everyone, not just those you think are important. True professionalism lies in treating all people with dignity, whether they wear a designer suit or a simple dress. You never know who someone truly is, or who they're connected to. Pride and prejudice can cost you everything. While humility opens doors, respect alone cannot. Thank you for watching this story on Afro Tales TV. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and share with friends and family. We have more beautiful stories coming your way, so subscribe and stay tuned. See you in the next one.